Luke, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, it's great to be here.
Luke, I'm excited to talk about Formlabs. It's a company that has done a tremendous amount of innovation in the 3D printing world. And it's a company that I think I got to know you originally in the early days of the formation of the company. So it's been amazing to see the growth since then. But, before we get into that, let's talk about your background. So what was your experience prior?
Yeah, so today I'm the chief business officer of Formlabs, but before I joined, I was actually working at a company nobody's ever heard of called Siemens, and so it's a this like gargantuan corporation that
Small
was
company, yes.
400,000 person company, and then I actually met the guys at Formlabs when the team was about 6 engineers. And so I actually, decided to join the team as the first quote unquote business guy. And my job description was do everything the engineers don't want to do. So definitely been on since the earliest days and did stuff like HR, finance, help set up manufacturing, project manager, Kickstarter campaign, and things like that.
So
So
you've seen it all. And just for, I guess, scale, just to talk, like, how many employees does Formlabs have now?
yeah, so like I said, when we started, we had 7. Today, we have about 600, and so that's across 8 offices, across 6 countries, 3 continents. So the team has just gotten, I mean, it's gotten huge, but it's also super interesting because it's a pretty complex team, just because our products are so complex. So we have basically every type of engineering you can imagine. Our customer base is amazingly diverse, so we have a pretty complex go-to-market. So we have a really diverse team. So it's gotten a lot bigger, but it's also gotten a lot more interesting as well.
Yeah. So when we were talking, you were definitely in that wearing many, many hats, which I'm sure you still do today. But even, when we were first talking, you were getting the HR and recruiting function going. But talk a little bit about the origin story of the company, because this was a sector that didn't exist of, desktop 3D printing.
Yeah, so what's interesting is 3D printing has been around for decades at this point. It was like invented in the 80s, but Formlabs was founded actually by a couple of engineers and designers out of the MIT Media Lab. And what was interesting there was they actually had access to these industrial machines. And so, these are machines that cost like price tags of like $300,000. They're amazing because they're 3D printers, but they cost $300,000, which means the only institutions that can afford them are like rich universities like MIT or rich companies like GE. But they're also hard to use, so you also have to be a trained technician. So the big idea behind Formlabs was, can we make a machine that is just as powerful, so it's people actually want to use it? Can we make it easy to use so people actually can use it? And then also, here's the big one: is like, can we make it 1% of the price? So like basically the price of a laptop, right? That was back in 2011. In 2012, we actually launched our first product, the Form 1. So it was the first time where we actually said, okay, here's a desktop 3D printer using the technology stereolithography that costs roughly $3,000. And what was really awesome was we proved to the market or we proved to the world that there was a ton of interest in this kind of thing. So we actually, on Kickstarter up at that point in time, we were the most valuable, or sorry, the most successful tech project of all time on Kickstarter. So we raised about $3 million. And so that was the early days that the Form 1 required a certain amount of love to make sure it worked. But then you fast forward to today, and we're on our 3rd generation product, and we've really delivered on that whole idea of our new products actually compete head to head with industrial machines. They're actually easy to use for a 3D printer, and it's still about the price of a laptop. So
That's awesome. Well, talk about, you started giving a little hint of the current, suite of products, because there's multiple different printers that you guys are selling now. So what's the latest in terms of the product line?
yeah, so just in April, actually, we announced our 3rd generation product, which is the Form 3. So it's basically replace. It's actually right behind me right here, so you can actually see it. So it's a desktop 3D printer. It's like I was saying before. I mean, the amazing sweet spot of what we hit is we have industrial quality, and this actually goes. It doesn't just like potentially compete with some of the industrial machines. It actually is better than some of the industrial machines at this point, which is actually really exciting for us, not them. But so it's, the Form 3 is just an amazing printer used by product designers, used by jewelers, used in the dental industry, in the healthcare industry, in manufacturing as well. The other really awesome thing we did back in April was we announced the Form 3L. So the Form 3 is a desktop printer. The Form 3L has a build volume, a print volume about 5 times the size of this guy. So that actually gets us into some new markets. And then most recently, actually, just in November, we announced the Form 3B, which is kind of a fork in the road for us, where we're starting to invest a lot more into specifically the dental market, but even into the broader healthcare industry. So we call it the Form 3B because it's our platform for biocompatible materials. And so like in the dental market, you can print dentures, you can print surgical guides, you can print retainers, things that actually go in your mouth that are actual end use products, but need to have certain certifications, like ISO certifications, so they can pass FDA standards and things like that. And so we've been investing a ton in a lot of different industries.
Now, to build the actual product, I mean, it's incredibly complex. I mean, the hardware in itself, the printer, the software that powers it. I mean, the manufacturing. There's so much that goes into building a product like Formlabs has. So talk about that a little bit as far as the organization and the team that ultimately is creating these amazing products.
Yeah. So as I was saying earlier, like the team is amazingly diverse. I think if you just look at the engineering side of the house, I mean, I think we have a more complex engineering than almost any company out there. I mean, we have software engineers, we have process engineers, we have optical engineers, we have electrical engineers, mechanical engineers, material scientists, and then we have UX designers. We have just such a big diverse team just on the engineering side. And we actually have, I think the best technical team in the industry. But then as we start going to market, selling to product designers, selling to manufacturers, selling to jewelers, selling to dentists, selling to hospitals, all these kinds of things, we sell in 70 different countries. That starts requiring a diverse kind of team to actually be able to bring that to market. And so on the team, we have like a ton of people who are just passionate about 3D printing, but then we also have experts in jewelry, we have experts in dentistry. We have, we have a ton of people that we've been adding to the team, specifically in the dental market, just given the investments we've been making there. Our sales team has a lot of engineers and things like that. And so our team is very diverse, interesting, and exciting to be a part of.
So you mentioned earlier your 600 employees. Like, what do you expect as far as growth ahead for 2020 and beyond?
Oh, geez. I mean, so I guess that we never want to stop growing. So I think, we've seen dramatic growth over time. So like I said, when I joined in 2012, we were 7 people. Now we're 600 people. And so I'd see continued growth like that, especially as we start shipping, our new products. Like, so we've already been shipping the Form 3, the Form 3B. Next year we'll be shipping in volume, like the 2 new products. So the Fuse 1, our selective laser sintering printer, as well as the Form 3L. So that's just going to require a much bigger team. So I think our growth trajectory is going to continue to be similar. Yeah.
So what's it like working at Formlabs? Like what's the day-to-day culture like now?
Yeah, so the culture here, it's actually something I'm very proud of, is that we've, you can't always keep everything the same when you grow so much, but I'm really proud that we've actually maintained a lot of like the core culture that we had in the early days. And so I'd say, first and foremost, it's fast paced. We're really focused on getting things done, taking action, and just moving quick. It's a rapidly moving industry, and so we need to be quick as well. And that's why, we like hiring like self-starters and whatnot. I'd also call it a very collaborative kind of team. A lot of our early hires kind of or our new hires come in and say like, this is kind of awesome how how collaborative your team is, and how open people are to helping you out and answering all your questions when you get here on day one. I'd say one of the things that starts to really define us is we really like to hire people who are curious. And like have deep curiosity for the world. And this often just gets down to like people who are deeply curious about how things are made or like the physical world and things like that. And so you can see that and through a lot of our team members who are very curious about not just 3D printing, but actually how things are made. And so I'd say our culture is just very curious. You have like a lot of really passionate people with a lot of very interesting hobbies. So there's a lot of very interesting conversations going on.
Well, if you are interested in joining Formlabs and continue down the path of just totally disrupting this industry, as Luke mentioned, they are aggressively growing the team. They're hiring across all functional areas. I think there's over 100 open positions on VentureFizz. So go to their biz page to check out all the listings. Go to venturefizz.com/Formlabs, and you'll see a complete list of their openings there. Luke, thanks so much for giving us the inside look of what's going on at Formlabs.
Yeah, this has been awesome. Thanks for having me.